In this video, I will be going over some Hazbin Hotel arguments and explaining why they do not work. First argument, they swear a lot because they are in hell. Swearing in the show is fine. The problem is that it is done excessively. It loses its charm and comedy when it is done constantly. Also, why do people in heaven swear? Peter swears once in season 1 when Charlie and Vaggie come to visit. Adam and Lute swear constantly in front of the authorities, and even Emily and Sarah swear in private. Emily and Sarah's swearing feels out of character for them. And for those of you saying that Adam's swearing in season 1 is meant to point out heaven's hypocrisy, then they should have done this in a less obvious way. Just have both Adam and Lute swear when Sarah isn't around. It's still hypocritical because angels shouldn't curse. But in the show, Sarah literally witnesses it all happen and doesn't do anything about it. She gets offended when Charlie does it, but she's fine when Adam does it. And she doesn't think this will make her look bad. Just have the curse words fit in naturally instead of using it excessively. It makes the story too edgy. Not every character has to swear, and you can still convey emotions without swearing. Just listen to Gravity. Not a single swear word uttered, and it is one of the best songs in the second season that conveys Lute's anger and frustration very effectively. Second argument. Alistair is not a fraud. He was winning against Adam in the season 1 finale until the end, and he only lost to the V's because he was planning it, and he won the final fight with Vox in season 2. Honestly, I agree with some aspects of this argument. I know this is an ongoing joke within the community, but some people are giving Alistair way too much crap for being a fraud when he is actually pretty strong, at least in my opinion. Now, with that being said, I'm here to explain why this argument doesn't work. So I'll get into that. Alistair's whole point is being mysterious to keep the audience intrigued. Also, he's supposed to be a manipulative and calculating character. I do not have a problem with Adam winning against Alistair. However, would a clever and calculating character try to fight a fight that he cannot win? Would a clever and calculating character accept a deal without knowing the conditions of that deal? Yeah, that's the problem with Alistair. He's only clever and calculating when the plot needs him to be. Again, I don't have a problem with Alistair losing his fight with Adam. Alistair also loses to Shockwave after beating Vox, and that was weird. You could argue that Shockwave was too fast for Alistair to properly land a hit on him, but doesn't he have powers that let him enter shadows? Like, he can literally turn himself into a shadow on the ground. Why can't he do that while fighting Shockwave? Did he suddenly lose this ability? I'm so confused as to why Alistair didn't win this fight. Now for the third argument. Alistair was able to break the deal with Rosie because Vox gets his power from media influence, and Charlie said Vox was the strongest sinner. They do not do enough world building in the show to let the audience know how overlords come into power or grow in power. This is some basic information that should be addressed in season 1. I don't care if people tell you to wait for future seasons for it to make sense. This is important to the plot of season 2 and should be addressed for the second season to feel complete. Why does Charlie saying this get all of Hell to believe Vox is the best? If Rosie's deal breaking depended on Charlie's words, Alistair could have made her say that he wasn't the strongest sinner back in season 1 when he first got the deal. Vox thrives off of media influence, and Charlie made him the strongest in hell. Then shouldn't Vox have won the fight against Alistair in the season finale? You know, since he's stronger than Alistair. Also, if Alistair somehow got stronger than Vox after both his deals were broken, then doesn't that mean Alistair is still owned by Rosie, since he's the strongest sinner in hell? Like, as long as he's the strongest sinner in hell, he is under Rosie. Isn't that how it works because Rosie gave him his powers? Alistair cannot be stronger than Rosie because Rosie gave him his powers. How would you be able to give someone powers stronger than you? Also, shouldn't she be able to take his powers away since he couldn't fulfill his end of the bargain as well? Now for the fourth argument. Lute is a well-written sleeper villain, and they only stopped her from taking action because it's the way the show sets up their villains. They did the same with Vox in season 1. Vox's Stayed Gone established his rivalry with Alistair, while Lute's Gravity poses a much more immediate threat. Sure, they have the same purpose of setting up villains, but Stayed Gone works in a way that Gravity doesn't. Vox is set up to be a more calculating villain who is planning to get rid of Alistair. It makes sense for his plotline to take a bit longer. Unlike Vox, Lute is a more wrathful character. She wants violence, and she wants it now. So her being told off by Abel's rushed character arc in the end was underwhelming. Now for the second Lute argument. People say Lute's journey in season 2 represent the struggles of the female identity as her experience and loyalty takes a back burner to a male nepo baby. This argument makes a lot of sense, but this could have been done in a better way. There is already a lot of plot lines that needs fleshing out in season 2, and you don't need to add another plot line in. You can still send the same message in a way that makes more sense. Just have Luth be in the background in season 2 and foreshadow what's to come in the future by having Gravity play out at the end of the season. The song Gravity can hold a lot more weight since she is using the song to vent out her frustrations about Adam's death and Abel taking her spot despite having no experience. Narrative-wise, her backing down to Abel made her build-up feel weak, and Abel's rushed character arc was very unearned because we only get a few scenes of Abel being disrespected by Luth, and suddenly in the end he gets the courage to stand up to her. It makes no sense. Both Abel and Luth's storylines should have been saved for future seasons. There's already so much to focus in season 2. The V's plotline, Sarah's redemption plotline, Charlie's hotel, Vox and Alistair rivalry, Pinch's redemption, Vox's backstory, Alistair's backstory. People also like to say that Charlie's mistakes in season 2 are different from the mistakes she made in season 1. Charlie trying to get on Vox's news and making dumb decisions in season 2 makes sense because she's lived a sheltered life. If you put it that way, sure. However, having an explanation for a character's action does not make it fun to watch. Charlie should have realized how Vox operates right after how she saw him mistreat Angel Dust. Also, it would make more sense if she was trying to get on the news with some evidence to back up her statement. But she has no way of proving all this. It doesn't matter if she's lived a sheltered life. She should know better. If there's no evidence, you can't go on the news and make claims about how redemption is real. Some people also like to say that if you don't like the show, then just don't watch it. These are some of the dumbest arguments that Hazbin fans will come up with because they can't take the fact that some people will have different opinions about the show. Why do you want glazing 24/7? Are opinions not a thing? People criticizing the show is okay as long as it's respectful and not blind hate. People need to know the difference between blind hate and having opinions. For me, the show has a lot of room for improvement, but it's just good enough to keep me engaged and keep watching. People also say, just wait until the story ends. This is another argument that I dislike. The audience should be able to criticize a show they like. Just because it isn't over doesn't mean it's exempt from criticism. However, with that being said, I do agree that people should have waited a bit longer for Alistair's plan in episode 4 because it was very evident that he was planning to lose the fight on purpose. People just started jumping to conclusions right then and there, and that didn't sit well with me. But apart from that situation, this argument doesn't work because there are a lot of things that the show fails to do in the meantime. For example, the world building. The show never explains how overlords come into power, how Carmilla got angelic steel, or anything like that. I've heard people say Carmilla gets them from dead sinners' bodies after exterminations, but that's just stupid because it is stated in the show that angelic steel is rare. Even if exorcists didn't know that their own weapons could kill them, why would they leave their weapons behind? It just makes them look incompetent. Where does angelic steel even come from for it to be rare? Also, why is Rosie powerful enough to let Alistair be the most powerful sinner in hell? I know people theorize that Rosie is Lilith or is working under Lilith, but we don't even know what Lilith's motivation is. Even if they are saving Lilith for future seasons, I feel like the writers should still let us know who Rosie really is and why she is able to do the things she does. It's good to leave some things unanswered for the theorists to make theories on, but basic world building like this should be explained in the story. Lilith's motivation can be revealed later on, as it is not plot-focused and not a part of the world building. But things like why Rosie is able to do the stuff she does should be explained because it relates to the main plot points of the season. I do not care if future seasons will take care of the plot holes or flesh out a character that's been established. That isn't an argument. A good season should feel complete on its own. Basic world building questions should be answered. Important characters should be fleshed out. Characters being set up shouldn't get a moment that ruins their character building. Character arcs should not be forced or rushed. And narrative ambiguity should leave spaces for fans to theorize instead of confusing people. To end this video off, I would like to clarify that I am not a hater of the show, and I don't want to be associated with Hazbin's hate them community since they don't seem to be the nicest people. I want people to know the difference between blind haters and the people who have opinions about the show. Thanks for watching. Please comment down your thoughts.